Live from the Partners Neighborhood Bar and Grill in beautiful downtown Huntsville, Alabama.
What time is it?
What time is it?
What time is it?
What time is it? What time is it?
It's Tea Time with Tierra, darling, where we are spilling the tea. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 10 of Tea Time with Tierra with my special co-host, Pete, and our special guest, Jason. He was in the house today. I'm so used to being on the microphone during the night, though. Anyway, we've got a great little show lined up for you tonight. Our special guest, Jason Hill, is wanting to talk about living with HIV, and I know that that's a stigma in our community. So I want to ask you about that stigma, not the straight community, but the gay community. What is that stigma about?
I think that a lot of people are really just afraid to talk about it. I don't know if it's because they're afraid what the reaction people may give them or how we're perceived, because I guess we're hit hardest by our peers. And I want to back up a little bit and tell a little bit about myself a little before, so they'll know like where I come from and stuff. I was raised in a small town, in church all my life, and came out to my parents when I was 17. Did not go well at all. They were not accepting whatsoever. So they came around after a few years later, and I always said I didn't care who knew I was gay once my parents found out. And I kind of felt the same way about HIV. So I knew I wasn't afraid to tell them, but I was afraid it would hurt them, because my dad had passed away in 2009. My brother had passed away in 2009. My dad passed away in 2011, and I didn't want to hurt my mom anymore by adding to that. But when I was in the hospital expected to die in 2011, there was really no way around it. So it's just been a life-changing event. Even when I came out and was not accepted, I had to find somewhere else to live. I've had over $100,000 a year, and I've also lived in a vehicle, so I've been there, I've had that. So it's like, I think we go through things for a reason, and I think God wanted me to share my experience with this.
Yes, I believe that we all experience things so we can help others, and that's been a experience for me, just learning that. So how old were you when you found out you were HIV positive?
Well, I had many friends that were HIV positive, and I had said it would never affect me for dating someone if I found out they were HIV positive. And I found out in 2011. I'm 39 now. You said anything was off. I said anything was off the table, so I'll be 40 in February. Clutch my pearls. So I found out in 2011. And I found out in the hospital. I had almost waited too long, but thank God, He spared my life. And I had even went through the HIV vaccine study in 2006, and I was negative. And I found out that I did get the vaccine. And, of course, my doctor said, well, it didn't work, did it? I said, well, obviously not. So.
Because God knows we've all done things. It don't take but one time to be able to contract HIV. So before you contracted HIV, what was your thoughts and your process on HIV? People or the disease or whatever. What was your opinion about that?
Well, when I was going through the HIV vaccine study, I had heard about it on the radio, and I knew that I had met and known so many people that had HIV and even AIDS and had died of complications. So I knew I wanted to do something to give back to the community. And I guess, hate to say it, but I guess I thought it wouldn't happen to me. And I had even, in 2006 and 2007 and part of 2008, I had even volunteered for Birmingham AIDS Outreach. Done hair for many years, and I would go once a month and cut hair, for people who couldn't afford to go out and do anything. And I was just so, how you have your little kit ready, to go do hair. I had packed my kit and stuff. And in my mind, I had already stereotyped the people I was going to see before I even got there. I mean, I just expected there would be just a bunch of gay men that would come in, and it'd be guys' haircuts all day. Easy, boom, boom, boom. I got there, I think I did 2 gay men and about 18 straight women. So I even stereotyped, people in our own community unaware that I was doing so. And I guess I said I would never tell anyone if I was HIV positive because I saw how some people talk about people with it. And I'll laugh and cut up with you about it. It's like we even made a comment coming in, and I said, well, girl, I've already got that, And a lot of people, it makes it feel uncomfortable, but, you can either laugh about it or you can cry about it. There's 2 things you can do. And, from being a female impersonator for so many years, I saw the ridicule that I went through, and I saw the shunment that was given to me upon our own gay community. And, without our entertainers and our female impersonators, our drag queens, our transsexuals, the gay community would be a hell in a handbasket. They paved the way, yet they were the hardest shunned. So that was in the back of my mind when I thought I would never tell anyone. But once the doctors had slipped up and told my mom, I had forgot to tell them not to tell her. My ex that I was seeing at the time, he said, I thought you weren't going to tell anybody. I said, well, come to find out, he was the one still sleeping with people, even today, not telling people. We won't call any names, but I just think it's wrong. And if I can help someone not contract the virus, and I thought that as long as I didn't get tested, as long as I didn't find out and know mentally, I thought that I guess I would be okay. I wouldn't have it. I thought that when people found out that they were HIV positive, I thought that was when just automatically you went ahead and you got sick, you went downhill, and that's when you actually passed away. And come to find out, I went through so many medical problems. If I had just known my status, that I wouldn't have had to went through all that.
That's interesting because I know that you say there's a stigma in our gay community, there's categories. You have the gay boys, you have the queens, and you have those people that you don't really know about, but you don't really give them a chance to get to know them. And those sometimes usually are people that are affected with HIV, because I believe that either you're out or you're in. That's my philosophy. But I know that since you've found out you're HIV positive, how do you deal with it mentally? What is it about? I need to know. I want to get inside your head. I want to know, because I always said that if I found out I was HIV positive, I would be a person that stood up, and I'd be in the spotlight, and I would try to help other people. There are people besides you that have told me that when they found out, they couldn't do that. And I believe that's because there's so much sarcasm within our community. Mm-hmm. And people think because you're HIV positive, it's a death sentence. Right. It's because I'm from the era like Pete is, and you're not far. You're our age, right? 49. Shh. Well, yes. So I believe we come from a generation where I remember the first time walking to a hospital and knowing there was someone HIV positive in the hospital. It was closed off, quarantine. No one could go in without a full. It was like it was hazmat. Everything had to be covered. And I remember asking what was wrong with that person, and they said, "Oh, they don't know." AIDS had not even been discovered. It had, but they didn't have a name for it. So all those years coming along in your life, and once you found out, what do you wake up to every morning? What your regimen? Do you take medicine every day, or mentally and physically? What do you go through?
When I found out in 2011, I was pretty much taken in a wheelchair. I had never been sick, so I didn't go to the doctor. And I avoided going to the doctor because I guess I had a really good immune system. I remember having the thrush in my mouth, and I couldn't get rid of it. And I remember Googling that, which that can be your worst enemy. So if you do Google something, my counselors and things have always told me, if it comes from the CDC, you can go ahead and accept that, but just don't accept anything that you read. But I saw that when I Googled it, it said a sign of a suppressed immune system. Well, my heart just sank immediately. And I just kind of had my moment, and that just made me withdraw myself even more. It was coming the end of a really bad relationship. So, with my brother getting killed in 2009, my dad dying in 2010, and this happening in July 2011, it was kind of like I didn't have time to focus on myself. And then when I did, I was so exhausted that I entered the hospital, and I stayed 18 weeks. So while I was there, I'll say the one good thing that came out of it was I didn't realize how close to death I was. And it amazed me because it was the most peaceful time of my life. So I thank God for that to know that if I die tonight, if I die tomorrow, if I die in the next few seconds, that I'm okay. So I take a 1 pill a day. I take ARRL. There's several 1 pill regimens out there, but there's some people that can't take the 1 pill regimens because of their kidney and liver functions that they keep a check on. So they'll space it out into a different regimen of multiple pills a day. So I'm lucky to have that. And there's a difference between HIV and AIDS. And I've even had people say, "Oh, so you have AIDS?" I don't know if that was just it hits a nerve a little bit, but it don't make me mad because it makes me want to talk to that person. It makes me want to pull them to the side and just say, you're really ignorant to the terminology and to what really is going on, and that, my friend, will get you in trouble. There's a thing called T cells or CD4 count, and that's your white blood cells. And I'm going to put a lot of this in layman's terms, how I understand it. So I may not use the correct technical term, but it'll be the same ordeal. The CD4 count is anything, normal person's about 1,000 to 1,500 per se on the average. And you can live a good, healthy life with that. Under 500, you just want to be careful. Be sure you don't miss any doses and things like that. When you fall to 200 and under, that is considered AIDS. So you can have AIDS, your HIV can turn into AIDS, and you can come out of AIDS. Because when I was diagnosed in 2011, the way they told me is there a viral load they measure in your body. The viral load is how much of the virus is in your system. Mine was like 77 million when I was diagnosed, and my CD4 count was 54. And they said, imagine a train, going down to the edge of a cliff over here, and that train is traveling at your viral load. That's the speed. So I was traveling 77 million miles an hour per se, and then your CD4 count is how far you are away from that cliff. So I was like 54 feet away from that cliff, going 77 million miles an hour. So that's why you want to bring your CD4 count up so you can live a healthy life. And when you're under 200 and you have AIDS, there's several pills that they place you on. Even though I was on the 1 pill regimen, I still had to take several pills for preventative measure. And there was a movie called And the Band Played On. It is a great movie. I saw it. I loved it. I saw it many years ago, and I don't know why, but I had forgotten about it, and I watched it again not too long ago. And I thought I had the Kaposi sarcoma, skin cancers. I had PCP pneumonia. I was a character in that movie looking back. And if I had just remembered that movie, it's a great movie. I recommend a lot of people watch that too.
Another thing is people have this stigma about people that are HIV positive have a certain body type. People think because you're HIV positive, you're skinny, you're a rail, many things. And I know that's misleading because I know HIV has it's no prejudice against people who get it.
I'm not skinny.
He just said he's not skinny. It's the angle. But so isn't that wild that people Oh, that means I'm smaller than I am, really.
Small ram.
Do not get me tickled. So, I mean, isn't it crazy? I'm HIV negative, but it's all crazy how people think that HIV positive people are skinny. They have lesions all over their body. There's a certain stereotype about that, and so I'm glad you're here to tell your story, because not to say, but you're different than what people have that imagination of. You know what I mean? So what is your take on that?
Well, you're gonna make me talk about last week, aren't you? I had met someone, and they had, of course, it was online. I'm sure the people out there watching this, I'm sure they've never experienced online dating, so we'll anyway, he had showed me pictures, but he didn't tell me his pictures were from 4 or 5 years ago. But then when he gets here and we meet face to face, I knew he was HIV positive, and I was fine with that. And he was I believe he was actually dying of AIDS, or AIDS complications to AIDS. He was very feeble. He had sores all over his body. I'm sure people thought that he was probably a meth addict, or something. It was that bad. And he was just skin over bones. But I had, even though lay it out there, I'm 318 pounds. So this is a reveal all for me. I told Tierra there would be nothing I would not mention. So I don't tell anybody my weight or age or nothing like that, really, but it doesn't matter. Right. So I weigh 318 pounds. And when I was sick and diagnosed, I was 215. And I still had the Kaposi sarcoma, the skin cancers and stuff, which look like really purple bumps. And let's see. But those, once your immune system clears, your immune system comes above 200, those will even clear up as well. Oh, really? Yeah, because I had one on my face right here, and I was like, oh, Lord, I've been fat all my life. Don't take my face. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was happy for that. But you can't tell by looking at somebody. That's an important thing that people should know, is you can't tell by looking. Because I've never been a beanpole. And, I think of Joan Rivers, who was just laid to rest today. She was my icon, somebody I just loved, because it's never too soon to make a joke, because you're either going to, once again, laugh about it or cry about it. So I'm always going to laugh about it. I hope it don't hurt anybody's feelings, but I'm going to laugh about it. So my ex said, I started tearing up when they come in and told me. He said, don't do that. I said, well, I was just thinking. He said, what? I said, I won't have to worry about being fat no more. And look at me. I've gained 100 pounds. So there's, you never know.
Yeah, and that's it. That's why I wanted to get clear to everybody that you can't look at someone and say he's HIV positive. He's not, because you don't know the face of HIV anymore. Back in the 80s, it was like they had to get to their almost their deathbed before recognizing what they had was topic, other than what you go through mentally. Like, I know you take medicines. What medicine do you take?
My one pill I take is Atripla. It's I think it's $2,600 a month for 30-day supply. When I went in the hospital, I had went to St. Vincent's, and they turned me away 3 times. And the third time, the doctor come in, and he said, I'm just going to be totally honest with you, Mr. Hill. He said, you need to find a federally funded hospital, and you need to find one quick. He said, because you're playing Russian roulette. You're playing with your life. He said, we can't afford to give you the treatment that you need. And he said, if you don't, he said, this will kill you. So I went into UAB. My godmother carried me there. Went to UAB. They admitted me. And I think I was there my second day. And this lady comes in, and she introduces herself. And she had her big old notebook and stuff. And she said, Mr. Hill, do you have any insurance? I thought, not again. Go ahead and get me a wheelchair. Here I go. But she said, she asked me all kinds of questions. And then she said, talked about the severity. And then I'm on disability. And she said, have you ever thought about filing for disability? And I said, well, no. And she said, would you like to? I said, what do you think I need to? And she said, you won't be returning to work no time soon. And I said, sure. So I was approved in the hospital for my disability. And there was a lot of things that UAB did for me as far as, getting my disability, my phone interview started. They brought me packets to fill out, stuff I can remember, so I'd be ready for my phone interview. And then when you have HIV and things, just because you don't have, I was like, well, I don't have insurance, and they've turned me away 3 times. That's another discouraging factor. You think, well, I don't want to go to another hospital because, you think a hospital's a hospital. I just don't want to get up and get dressed and get there just to be turned away. And because ER is not fun. So I didn't want to go just be turned away again. And one thing that people should know is there's a thing called charity care. If you're sick and you need to go to the hospital, you don't have insurance, you don't have Obamacare, I don't care what you don't have, there is programs out there for you. They had charity care, which covered my medical bills. And then I got my disability started. And even people think, well, if they find out, they're not going to be able to afford to go to the doctor, to the clinic. Well, the clinic is free. You have no excuse for not going. The clinic is free. There's a thing called Ryan White. I'm sure most people have heard of him. And you will have, everybody in the United States will get a Ryan White card. I don't know how Huntsville is, but I know in Birmingham at the 1917 clinic, your Ryan White covers your medical, it covers your dental, it covers your pain management, it covers your psych services, it covers anything you need. So it's a really great thing. My biggest thing was I can't afford this, so just don't worry about that. There is people that will help you out there. When you sign up at your clinic, if you are HIV positive, you'll have your own nurse, you'll have your own doctor, you'll have your own social worker, and then there's places like AIDS Alabama that can supply housing, and they can supply a lot of different things for you, like for your bills and things. And then there's Birmingham AIDS Outreach. That is another great place. They have BAO bingo in Birmingham and things. But they also give food baskets. They have legal services that they provide, medicine. Just, I know people that are on disability that are not because of HIV, and they don't have the services offered that, we have. So it's really a good thing to know.
Well, I don't. Pete's been sitting over here, and because I'm a microphone hog too. But I really wanted to know. I know that we've got the outer shell covered. We know that when we get tested, we have to do we have a regimen. But what I want to know is, as the people watching may want to know, is what made you get tested? What made you want to go get tested? Because I get tested, but that doesn't mean everybody watching is going to go, oh, I need to go get tested. So what would you say to those people watching that really need to know their status?
Well, one good thing, if you, what made me get tested was, I had done the vaccine program, and they told me they can't reveal, they have to wait X amount of time, which in my case was 2 years after I finished the study to find out whether I got the placebo, which was usually saline solution, or if I got the actual vaccine. And they don't want you to have an HIV test anywhere else except, there where you got your vaccine, because it could cause you to have a false positive. And so I used that as a crutch not to get one, because I didn't want to go back to just one certain place or whatever. But nowadays, I was so sick, and they said they could tell that I had pneumonia when I was at St. Vincent's. And they said, Mr. Hill, have you had an HIV test? And I said, yeah, no. What do you mean, yeah, no? I said, I have, but it's been a long time. And she said, would you mind if we did an HIV test on you? Well, my big thing was I didn't want to go on a national list or registry or something like that. But, that just don't even matter anymore. It's not really a big concern. So she said, well, if you are HIV positive, she said, and you've got pneumonia and you are HIV positive, we need to know that you're HIV positive or not. She said, because chances are you don't have pneumonia. You have pneumocystis pneumonia, which is a special type of pneumonia that's found in patients with HIV or usually AIDS. And it's real severe, and they need to treat it at a total different angle than they would just somebody with pneumonia. So I said, okay, yeah, go ahead. Well, they come back, and it was positive. But, there's so many testing places you can go nowadays. But even if you don't want to go in somewhere and get a test, if you don't want to, make an appointment or anything, if you don't want to do it yourself. They're $59.99 at Walgreens, I know for a fact, that you can do yourself at home now, so which is a good thing.
In Alabama, it's a misdemeanor if you don't tell someone you're HIV positive when you get sick. I mean, when you have sex with them, correct? There are other states. I don't know if you didn't know that. It is. I did my research. It's a misdemeanor in Alabama that if you do not tell someone you're HIV positive and they contract HIV and they can trace it back to you, it's a misdemeanor. But there are states that it's a felony. So I guess what I'm going to get deep, okay? What I'm wanting to know is when you have sex with people, are you honest or are you not honest?
I can talk to somebody, and for example, they can send me a message on Facebook, or if I'm just talking to somebody on Grindr or Scruff or something like that, if I think I can compliment them and say, nice picture, good looking, and if they reply back, and if we talk for more than just a couple of messages, and they say to me to tell them about myself, and we start exchanging details about ourselves, before we even think about even changing numbers or something, I'm going to say, oh, and I'm HIV positive, because I have HIV because of my carelessness. I don't blame anyone for that. I don't hold any resentment or any ill will. I don't know where I got it. I don't care where I got it, because if I had done what I was supposed to have done, I wouldn't have it. So it doesn't bother me that I have it. It's, a lot of people say, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, why, did you run over your dog or something? No, but I'm fine, I mean, do I need to let you go? You need to bury him now or what? So it doesn't, I just want to make sure, because I guess my way of thinking in the back of my mind is not, well, I want to tell them before they get here. Or my way of thinking is the one person that I didn't tell would be probably my life partner. And then I would F that up because I didn't tell them up front. That's what crosses my mind. Yes. So I always try to tell people and be upfront with them. I've only had one person that couldn't deal with it. A lot of people say, well, it must be pretty hard. Well, don't think you're going to do me any. Don't think you're going to slap on a cross and do me a pity service, baby, because you're not. I've only had one person that couldn't deal with it, and he was a nurse. For God's sakes, I'm like, really? Mr. Universal Precautions here is going to have a trouble with it.
Well, that's the stigma that most people have against it. And I think that's undereducation what we have within our community. People are so undereducated about how you can get it and how you can't get it. Before I turn it over to Pete, because I know he's got some questions, tell me how you can get it.
I have a potty mouth. I have to think about that. Bleep, bleep, bleep. I mean, just mucus contact, seminal fluids. You see, I'm having to pause and think correct terms.
Where it might be easier for you to say how, like, you can't get it from a toothbrush. Or, like,
how can you not get it?
Well, if the person has a cut in his mouth or something, there has to be blood-to-blood contact, or maybe seminal fluid to blood, contact. Maybe if you had a cut in your mouth and, and they did ejaculate in your mouth, it's a possibility. One of the main ways that HIV is spreading is by people who do not know their HIV status or do not care. Because if you are taking your meds, like I'm undetectable, and my CD4 count now is, I think it was 864, the last count. I'm just really hoping for over 1,000 soon. But I'm happy with that because I can live a real healthy life. As long as I'm undetectable and my CD4 count is so high, the chances of me passing HIV along to someone else, even if we did have use no protection, and there was exchange of fluids internally, during anal penetration or whatever, the chance is really low. I still wouldn't say risk it, but it's really low. And before I'm thinking about it, there was for HIV negative and HIV positive, there's the new drug called the PrEP that I sent you the link to, and it's called PrEP. The R is lowercase, and then yes, the P and the EP is uppercase. But it's a regimen where the negative partner can take this regimen along with you, and it can even reduce. I think it's like by 92% or something like that. It reduces it like a really high rate, but still, once again, it doesn't condone unsafe sex. I've even had people people say, well, we wouldn't have to use protection. Well, if you're negative and I'm positive, we would. You know, I don't want their, because, you know, you can never go back. You can never undo what's been done. You can't unring the bell. So.
Also, if you're HIV positive and you're dating someone HIV positive and you're on a certain drug and their system is immune to it, then that doesn't mean he wouldn't get sick. You know what I mean? So it's like people who are immune to things. It's like antibiotics. They say in time it's people are so immune to antibiotics, you know, that antibiotics are not working for people anymore. So I think that's a struggle within everything, and it's just not. Oh, it's just not a gay disease either. You know, HIV is not just a gay disease, and I think that's. Well, I did too in the 80s. I thought, oh God, I didn't really identify as gay, but I think that's how I'm gonna die. You know, but I'm gonna let Pete talk to you for just a minute because I've been a microphone hog. So Pete, what you got to say, honey?
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being upfront and honest with everything. I think it's just fabulous. So one of the things that really kind of struck me was you had to really kind of come out twice, didn't you?
I did, and it was I had came back from a procedure. It was just a mild procedure, and I come back and my mom was in the room and she was crying, and I was like, oh bleep, you know, I knew at that time that, you know, that she knew, and what you were talking about the they say you can make a hypervirus. Like if say we were dating, for example, and you were HIV positive and I was HIV positive. Say a lot of people that have been positive since the 70s, they were on AZT. And AZT was so strong of a drug, it killed the good cells, and it killed the bad cells and the good cells. It didn't know what it was killing. But at that point, it's the only hope you had. And a lot of people that were on AZT can't take the one-pill regimens now because it was so hard and damaging to their body then. And I guess I think that, I don't know, maybe when I was talking to that guy that I thought, well, maybe it would be, I wouldn't mind dating someone that was HIV positive because maybe you wouldn't have to be as careful, which is not true. But I guess I'm a person that does not, I don't like to use condoms. So, and I used to be a whore. I mean, just flat out. You know, there was, I was like a doorknob on a door. Everybody had a turn. I just love sex. But since 2011, it's made me stop and think that, you know, when you have HIV, then I need to slow my roll. So I realized that if you contact something like hepatitis C as well, if I was to contact Hep C along with HIV, well, that's just a death sentence right there. You know, it's like you don't need to have a checklist. You don't need to be going out there, you're just checking off what all you can get. So it's made me slow down. And I'm thankful that I don't have a real high sex drive anymore. Maybe if I was in a relationship, I would, you know, was dating someone. But if we both had HIV, and say you had been on AZT and you were on the a multi-pill regimen that you took pills throughout the day, and I was on the one pill, say you couldn't take the A-tripla that I take, maybe your body was immune to the A-tripla. Well, if we swapped the virus and you had part of my virus in your body and you were that virus of mine was immune to anything you could take, say you couldn't take any of those regimens that would kill this virus in me, that would not be good for you. Right. You know? Yeah. And they say that it can track back from where the virus came from. That there's different strands and things that they can all link back. But the hyperviruses can be immune, and the stuff. Say you may have taken so many, and if I contacted some of your virus inside me and it made a hypervirus, that the pills that you couldn't take, I couldn't take either because it wouldn't do anything to the virus. So it could be very tricky.
Cool. So let's talk about some of the things just to kind of get a little bit of the stigma out of it. What can we can hug, right? I mean, right? Okay, so here we go. I mean, just kind of talk about what kind of contact people can have with because people are probably still under that stigma of this is what's going to happen. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Well, I remember my mother when she had found out that I was gay. I had a friend of mine that was HIV positive, and that was in '93, and she couldn't accept me, but I guess you reach out to him, and which I didn't understand at the time, but now I do looking back, that she was trying to make sense of it all. And he was HIV positive, and I remember when he would come over, I laugh about it now. People will think I'm awful, but when he would come over, Mother would wash the dishes in bleach. So and now I take vitamin B, or I take B12 shots, and my mother gives me my shots. So there's just you can really do anything. It's not contagious. You pretty much you really have to be really careless in sexual acts, or I remember when I got out of the hospital. Example, what I shouldn't have been doing. I was helping a girl move some stuff, and it was just some lightweight stuff. And I was getting some of the stuff out of my car, and it was in Birmingham. And I was walking down the sidewalk. Well, me being the klutz that I am, down I went. And I scraped my leg from the knee down on the right side, and I was just bleeding everywhere. Well, I hollered to her, and I was like, "Can you bring me a couple of napkins or something like that?" "Oh, come here. I was like, no. I was, things like that. I wouldn't have wanted her to have contact with me. I really didn't want her close to me because I was even scared of passing it on. But there was obviously blood contact there, and you just want to avoid blood contact. And usually you're not going to have semen contact unless you're sleeping with someone. But kissing, touching, I even think mutual masturbation, as long as there's no open sores on the body, things like that.
I think that's great because, like I said, there's still a lot of a stigma. And I think it was really interesting what you were talking about with the weight thing, because I know a few years back I hadn't seen somebody in a while and I'd lost a little bit of weight, and the very first thing they said to me was, "Are you okay?" And do you know what that question is? You know what I mean? When they're asking, I was like, I didn't get it at first. I thought, oh, wow, okay, interesting, So in the gay community, I think that's something we really see, especially when we see somebody do a fairly rapid, change. And I guess maybe that's, well, you might think in the straight community that they might be sick, but where the gay mind instantly goes to. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But so, like, what kind of, how does that affect your health today? Do you know what I'm saying? Are there certain things you can and can't do, or that type of thing?
I guess the only thing is when I had the PCP pneumonia, it had gotten so bad. Excuse me. It had encapsulated both of my lungs, and out of those 18 weeks, I was in the hospital 2 weeks at first, and then I had to go back in, and I had relapsed, and with that encapsulation, I still have scar tissue in my lungs and things, and then I had spots on my lungs. They couldn't figure out what it was. So then they did about a needle about that long where they went into my back while I was awake. Lovely. And did a biopsy. They run a light down my throat 2 times. And then they finally did a PET scan because they thought I had cancer in my lungs. And it showed them where the activity was on the spots where they would know to check. But they had also cut me 5 places on my right side and did biopsies and still didn't find anything. But with the PET scan, a year later, they found out that I had a fungus in my lungs that had developed also. and it was called cryptococca. A lot of people know it as cryptococca meningitis. So I had to have a spinal tap to make sure it wasn't in my spinal fluid, and it wasn't. So I just had to stay on antifungals for a year. But as I talk a lot, you can see I get a little winded, and a lot of that is my weight that I've put on as well. But it took me a long time to be able to be in the hospital 18 weeks, being in the bed, and then I went in a wheelchair, so I was already weak. So it's taken me a while to be able to build up to normal activities and stuff and get my strength back. So that's been something that has affected me. I stayed sick for from July, August, September, October, maybe to about the end of October, about 4.5, maybe 5 months. I just stayed sick every day. I remember we went at the end of October. We went to Arkansas, me and my mom and my stepdad, and I remember being sick while I was packing the bags and things. But then that leveled off. I don't have any more side effects to my medication and things now. I had a meeting with the Gastric Bypass doctor, bariatric in Birmingham. Used to people that had my condition in 2011 didn't live. So I was lucky for that. And used to, you didn't have weight loss surgery with HIV. So thank God I've been approved for weight loss surgery. I'll have that probably around March. I can't have the gastric bypass. They have a new procedure called the sleeve where they will just staple off the whole side of your stomach and just leave like a little tube. But they can do that where they can't do the gastric bypass because they're afraid to take out that big portion of my stomach and my intestines, because those upper part of the intestines that they remove is what absorbs your nutrients, their major nutrients, and they're afraid if they take that out, then my body won't absorb my HIV medication. So I can do the sleeve. So hopefully in March I'll have that done and be a whole lot better.
Well, I think you're going to find this really interesting. In 2005, I had gastric bypass, and I was 320 pounds.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So how tall?
You were my size.
Yeah. How tall are you?
Well, I used to be 6'1". I'm 5'10" and a half. I'm shrinking.
Okay. I'm not 5'9". I like to say I'm 5'10", but okay. This is the honest one, so I'm 5'9". Okay.
I need to be shrinking this way, not this way.
So, but I thought you'd find that interesting that I've been where you are, and I look okay. So all is well. So I did want to ask you when you did those haircuts, you said they were straight women. Were those straight women? Did they have HIV, or talk about the straight communities? What you know of, you know what I mean? Because like you said, it's not just the gay community that's affected.
Well, when I come out of the hospital, I was even thinking, oh God, here I got to go to this AIDS clinic, or this HIV clinic. Just go ahead and just being sour with it at the time, and just throwing a whole negative persona on it, and something I shouldn't have been doing, because. And a friend of mine had also told me that, you don't know what you're going to think going in there, because the people you're going to see there are are the gay males from the bar. Same thing I thought with the haircuts, but when I go to the clinic, every time I go to the clinic, I might see 2 or 3 gay men, but I'll see at least 30 to 40 majority women, but men and women, straight people. I saw more straight people, and even when I go back to these places, there are more straight people than gay people there, and that was kind of humbling too, because I remember years ago when I was negative, I had got into it with a person, and I said the bad mouth I talked about that I had. My way of lashing out with them was they were real skinny. I said, "You're just a poster child for HIV." Don't think God didn't call that to my attention. That was the first thing that crossed my mind when they come in and they said, "Mr. Hill, you're HIV positive." So I had to tell that person I was sorry. And don't think, that karma won't get you, and don't think she won't call it to your attention. But it was an eye-opener to know that the majority of people that I see, at the clinic or the hospital or anything like that, is straight people.
Well, I love that there's so many organizations out there. I had no idea, and that's just fascinating. Maybe we can get a list of those and post them, because that's something that I didn't even know, so I think that's just fantastic. So how has that affected you spiritually? You know, Tierra knows I always like to get on the spiritual part, so has that affected you anywhere? Have you gotten closer to Source or God, universe, whatever you call it?
I don't think there's no way that you can have a near-death experience and not be affected, you know? You know, once again, I talk about my brother was killed in a car wreck. So he was gone like that. You know, there was no saying goodbye. There was just, I looked at my phone, and when I go to sleep, it's over. It's over, but the shouting, you ain't going to get me up until it's time for me to wake up, you know. And I looked at my phone, and there was like 72, 77 missed calls. And I told my ex at the time, I said, somebody better be dead. You know, once again, God will call you out, you know. And my dad was in the hospital at the time, and they told me about my brother. Well, the only thing I could think about was getting to my mom. You know, I was worried about her. So then in 2010, when they told me my dad had about 3 weeks to live, and they were going to put him in a nursing home, I was like, well, no, he can come live with me. So I had that time to, it helped me not be bitter with God, because I didn't have a chance to say goodbye to my brother, but God gave me that chance with my dad. So, and then when I was sitting in the hospital, and I didn't know, you know, I didn't realize why they wanted to call my family. You know, they said, we don't have to tell them, you know, but they need to be here. Okay. But realizing how peaceful, the peace that I had, a lot of people don't know, you know, a lot of people say they just have a fear of dying and things. So I think that is a blessing that God gave me, that peace, that I know that it doesn't bother me anymore. So it's opened my eyes a lot. I was raised in church all my life, so I had kind of gotten away from God, which is my higher power, you know. So me and Tierra, we'll text message, and well, we both have iPhones, so I'll send her videos and links, and we'll sit there and praise God through text all the time, won't we? So it's I thank God for that. It's brought me closer to my family, and believe it or not, I guess I thought when you mentioned a while ago about coming out twice, that I was afraid, because I knew how my mom handled it the first time. I not only didn't want to hurt her, but it brought back those memories of non-acceptance. So the last thing you want to do is have to come out twice or do that again. You know what I mean? So I was just like, wasn't ready for it. And my mom has been wonderful the whole time. So, and I said I would never move back home and live with Mom again. Well, I moved back home and lived with Mom for 2 years. I just signed my second-year lease. I live by myself now. So God has been really good to me. You know, I'm in school. I'm taking classes, so I can hopefully come off disability, and, you know, 'cause it's not enough to live on. You know, thank God that my car is paid for and things like that. So I am thankful for God every day.
That's awesome. That's just beautiful. Well, do you have anything else that you want to touch base on?
No, not really. But I just think that just to clear the air, you know, make everybody understand everything more clearly than they did before they watched this. Right. Is there anything you can leave with them? Because if it was, I mean, to me, I just think, first of all, know your status. Second of all, be really careful when you are taking the chance to have sex. And third of all, you tell me that third thing that people need to be careful about.
The way you are to others. You can see people, like I can see the gentleman behind the camera here. I don't know what he's going through right now. And he can have a smile on his face, but you don't know what's going on inside that person, you know. And I have been the bitter old queen before. And if you think God will not humble you off of that, think again, because he will. And I just want everybody to know if there's ever anything that you need to know or whatever, if maybe they can contact you, or if you don't know, you can ask me. It's Jason Craig Hill on Facebook. You can send me a message, ask me if I can do anything to help anybody. I'll be more than happy to.
And remember, HIV is not a death sentence anymore. No. But be aware of your status, and I really thank you for being so open and honest today, because this little conversation can save the life. If it's just one person, we've done our job today, but hopefully it'll be more than one. So I just want to hug and tell you I love you, and I appreciate you, and God bless you, and thank God you're on your journey to a different road, to a different way. You're just, you're passing through. That's what we're doing. We're passing through. You're 47. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate y'all for tuning in to episode 10. Your wish is my commands. I love you and I thank you. Remember to be kind to one another. Remember to be kind to one another. God bless you. I love you all and thank you so much. Bye-bye.